boys and girls. We have another interview here today. This interviewee is especially special to me. This is my husband, Mr. Liveringhouse, and he is going to tell us all about his career and how he became what he is. So, our first question that we have for you, Mr. Liveringhouse, is what is your job title?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on Mrs. Liveringhouse. It's always a pleasure to get the chance to interact with your students. So thank you for that. So my job title is resident physician in radiation oncology at Moffitt Cancer Center. And basically, what that means is I'm a doctor who is in training in oncology. So I will specialize in treating patients with cancer. So that's my job title.
All right, very good. So, going back in time a little bit, when you were in elementary school, just like the kids that are watching this interview, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, elementary school was a long time ago for me, admittedly. But when I was in elementary school, I really wanted to be a fighter pilot in the Navy. Because I saw the movie Top Gun with Tom Cruise, and I thought being a fighter pilot was the coolest thing ever. So that's what I wanted to be.
All right, so you wanted to be a fighter pilot. What was that guy's name? Maverick and
Maverick and Goose.
Maverick and Goose.
Yeah.
Okay, so you wanted to be a fighter pilot in the Navy, and today you are a doctor. Are there any similarities between what you wanted to do with what you currently do?
Um, I'm struggling to think of any. So probably not too many similarities. I think they're quite different paths.
Well, could you say that both jobs involved helping people?
For sure. I mean, being a fighter pilot, serving in the military is a way of serving your country, and being a doctor is, helping people with their health. So definitely, yes.
Okay. All right. So, what I want you to do is walk us through a typical day of being a resident in radiation oncology.
So typically, what we do is, we see our patients in clinic every day for most of the day, and that involves, talking with them and talking about, how we can treat their cancers and what are the best ways to do that. And then, of course, after that, there's all sorts of documentation that we have to do. So we spend quite a bit of time doing that, as well as designing treatment plans.
All right. And tell me about what you had to do in order to get to this point, to be a resident and to be in radiation oncology. What did you have to do starting after graduating high school?
Yeah, so it's been a long road to become a doctor. So after graduating high school, I went to college for 4 years to get my bachelor's degree. And then after that, I went to medical school for 4 more years to get my medical degree. And then after I graduated from medical school, I'm now in my residency training, which means that I'm a doctor, but I'm still in training and I'm being supervised by more senior doctors who have been through training previously. And so my residency is 5 years. So in total, I will have been in college for 4 years, medical school for 4 years, which is 8 years of school total, and then 5 years of residency. So tack that on, it's about 13 years of education after high school.
All right. So after high school, you went to college. You went to Luther College with me. What did you study in college to prepare you for medical school?
In college, I studied biology as well as chemistry. Those are kind of the foundations for the life sciences and the healthcare sciences. So that's what I focused on to help prepare me for medical school and being a doctor.
And what was the process like to get into medical school?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Had to apply to a number of medical schools and actually go on interviews to those different schools. And, originally being from Minnesota and the Midwest, I actually ended up getting accepted to medical school in Florida. So that's where we went. Yeah.
Okay. And then you go through medical school, do all that work. And at the end of medical school, you have to apply again to get into a residency program. How did that process look?
Yeah, that's also a very good point. I had to at the end of medical school, we have to apply for our residency positions where we apply to a number of programs, a number of hospitals throughout the country, go on interviews for those programs, and then eventually, based on our preferences and the preferences of the hospital for who is the best fit for each doctor at each hospital, it ends up working out that you get matched with a specific hospital. So for my case, I went to medical school at the University of South Florida here in Tampa, go Bulls, and then ended up getting matched with Moffitt Cancer Center, which is also, affiliated with University of South Florida. So staying here in Tampa for these 5 years.
Now, just because it's interesting, can you name all of the states that you visited for your interviews for residency program?
Oh boy, it was all over the place. So of course, Florida, Georgia. Um, let's see, Alabama, Texas, um, Tennessee. Um, where else did I go? Pennsylvania, Michigan, Ohio, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin. Where else did I go? Oregon, California, Colorado. Um,
You're missing the state where a very dramatic thing happened to me.
oh yeah, so Utah as well, where we went skiing and you ended up hurting yourself, but we won't talk about that. I think I also went to Virginia as well as um, maybe that was all. Yeah, there were so many places that I went. Did I say Georgia? I think I said Georgia.
I think so. And there were some states where you went to two different programs, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like in Minnesota. No, Minnesota was just Mayo. Or did you do the University of Minnesota too?
No, no. So I think there were a few programs in. There were a few programs in California, and there were a few in Florida, and I think that was about it as far as few in Iowa as well. Yeah.
To a lot of traveling in a lot of different states that you had to go to and lots of interviews. So, in order to get into medical school, you had to travel and do interviews. Then you go through 4 years of medical school. At the end of medical school, you travel a lot, probably more than what you did for getting into medical school in order
Mm,
to interview for residency.
yeah, yeah. A lot of traveling all over the place, which is it's I enjoy traveling, so that wasn't so bad. I got to see a lot of places in the country that I'd never been to before, and I think it's always good to get out and broaden your horizons and experience different places and different cultures that way. And the America, the United States, is a big place, and it's very different depending on where you go. And um, I think it's uh, good to kind of get out of your own bubble and see what it's like elsewhere in the country. So that was an enjoyable process for me, and got to meet a lot of great people. Met a lot of great friends that I'll probably keep in touch with. And yeah, so I think it was a tough process to be traveling so much, but definitely interesting and good to have gained that perspective.
All right. You have two more questions left. I'm going to throw a question at you that I didn't tell you about because it just
Bonus
popped.
questions.
It
Bonus.
popped in my brain.
Okay.
So, there are lots of different doctors in the world, and all doctors have their different focuses. So, one doctor may not do the same as another doctor, and your specialty is oncology, so treating cancer.
Mhm.
What is it like to treat and interact with people that are going through cancer treatment or being told they have cancer?
Yeah. So I think people with cancer is a very kind of specific and distinct part of being of medicine and being a doctor. And um, it has its ups and downs. It's very rewarding because a lot of people are cured of their cancer, and it's very gratifying and rewarding to see that, because cancer is a very scary thing. I think it kind of touches a special kind of place in our hearts because of how scary it can be. I think everybody or most people know somebody or have been themselves affected by cancer, somebody close to them, their family or friends. So a lot of people can relate that way, and it's a scary thing. So being able to be there and help guide them through the treatment and kind of steady their hand and say, this is a tough battle, but we'll get through this together. That's really I think part of what makes the job so meaningful that I do. And on the flip side, there's definitely some more sad aspects to it. Like I mentioned, cancer is a scary a scary disease, a scary thing, and it's one of the leading causes of death in the United States. And unfortunately, it continues to take a lot of lives. So that means that there's also a hard part of being a doctor who treats people who have cancer, because sometimes they, you know, will will eventually pass away from their cancer. And um, that can be hard to deal with. That can be sad for us as doctors, and of course, sad for those people and their families. But I think overall, it's a very meaningful thing to be able to see those people and to help them through their treatment.
All right, very good. Okay, last question, and the most important question of them all. What advice do you have for the elementary students that are listening to this interview right now?
It's a great question, and I think really the most important thing is just to be yourself, and yeah, stay true to yourself, and don't let anybody tell you that you should try to be something different. We all have special values and passions and wants, and I think you should stay true to those values. And don't ever let somebody tell you that you can't do something or you're not good enough. I think that everything that I've been through, there's definitely been discouraging points along the way, but you always have to just believe in yourself and know that if you can kind of just just stay strong and always do your best, give your best effort, and things will come out the way they're supposed to. So that would be my advice.
All right, very good advice. All right, well, thank you very much. I introduced you as Mr. Liveringhouse. I should have introduced you as Dr. Liveringhouse, but I didn't want to spoil the surprise. So
Yeah.
thank you, Dr. Liveringhouse, for talking with us a little bit and sharing about your career of being in the radiation oncology field.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I hope the students enjoy this.
All right, bye bye.